Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is February 27th, 2023. We are in the Old Testament, and we are in the book of Exodus. We're going to read chapter 1, verse 22 to chapter 2, verse 22 today. All right, so this is the second book of Moses, Exodus, coming out, exit. It's basically the story of the Jewish nation, the Israelites, being called out of Egypt as a nation with God as their sovereign ruler. And it's being done through a man named Moses. So if I'm a Gentile Christian believer, why should I bother with any of this stuff? This is all about Jews. It doesn't have anything to do with me, right? Well, that's true somewhat to an extent, because these laws that are given to the Israelites are not intended for me as a Gentile believer. I came directly to belief in Jesus. That's enough. God is given me his grace through his son Jesus, so I don't need necessarily all this laws, but I've got a better law in Jesus. All of this points to Jesus. Everything that this tells me I'm supposed to do is just a small part of what Jesus actually gives me. This is all the Old Testament's about the letter of the law. I have the spirit of the law straight from the Son. So why should I still read the Old Testament? Well, it's giving me an idea of who God is, and that he's faithful, that he believes in his promises, that he believes in righteousness, sinlessness. It also shows me the pig-headedness of the Israelites who keep opposing him, and every time he lifts them up, they want to fight and struggle, and he ends up cursing them and starting over. So there's a lot to this Old Testament that is very pertinent to us. Even though it doesn't maybe directly speak to us, it still speaks to us. In fact, in this section here, we see the rise of Moses, well, the birth of Moses. We saw yesterday that Pharaoh understood that the Israelite nation is starting to become pretty strong and is starting to become a threat to him. So he wanted to do something about it. So he wanted all the male Hebrews killed as soon as they were born. But the midwives came up with an excuse and said, "Oh well, the Hebrew women have their babies so quick. By the time we get there, it's too late to kill them." So now he comes up with another plan. Now he says, "Hey, you know what? I don't care how old your Hebrew sons are. You got to send them out and expose them to the wilderness where they're going to die." And we see Moses' mother decides, okay, I'm going to put him in a reed basket, and I'm going to set him in the Nile River, and his sister's going to watch where that basket goes. And it just so happens that they were upriver from where Pharaoh's daughter was going to be. Surprise, surprise. So maybe a little planning there. But as the basket got down, the sister was looking to see what Pharaoh's daughter would do, and she sees Moses, the baby, and she ends up adopting him, and calls for someone to come over, and the sister's right there and says, "Here I am, what do you need?" And she says, I need a nurse for this baby. And she says, "Well, I know just the woman who can take care of this baby." And she went home and got his mother. God uses evil to do good. Then the story advances a little bit to Moses as a young man. He's been raised as an Egyptian prince, essentially, but he understands that he's a Jew. And as he goes out, he sees an Egyptian mistreating a Jewish person, and he rises up and he kills the Egyptian and hides the body. And he kind of thinks, "Ooh, hey, I did something. I scored a victory for my people." But it was all his own actions. No God behind it. It was him trying to do something, and it ended up backfiring on him, because now all the Hebrews were, "Hey, we don't want to be near you. They're going to come after you, and then they're going to come after us." So he leaves and he goes into exile. And he spends about 40 years in exile. We're just going to see the beginning of this, but God needs to hone him and teach him that, no, you know what? It's not your might that's going to free my people. It's going to be my might. So let's go ahead and we're going to read Exodus chapter 1, verse 22 to chapter 2, verse 22. So Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, "Every son who is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive." And a man of the house of Levi went and took his wife, a daughter of Levi. So the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it on the reeds by the river bank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the river. And her maidens walked along the riverside, and when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, This is one of the Hebrews' children. And his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go. So the maiden went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages. So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, saying, Because I drew him out of the water. Now it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out to his brethren and looked at their burdens. And he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. So he looked this way and that way, and when he saw no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 Hebrew men were fighting. And he said to one who did the wrong, Why are you striking your companion? Then he said, Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian? So Moses feared and said, Surely this thing is known. When Pharaoh heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and they filled the troughs to water their father's flock. Then the shepherd came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. When they came to Reuel their father, he said, How is it that you have come soon today? And they said, An Egyptian delivered us from the hand of the shepherds, and he also drew enough water for us and watered the flock. So he said to his daughters, And where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him, that he may eat bread. Then Moses was content to live with the man, and he gave Zipporah his daughter to Moses. And she bore him a son. He called his name Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. May God bless the reading of his word. May God bless you. Bye.